What's going on, guys? Stasio here with flightpath.com. Now in this video I have new gear from Freewell, and they actually are starting to make camera filters now for mirrorless as well as DSLRs. Now if you guys don't know, I've done a bunch of Freewell filter reviews on their drone filters, and this right here I have the Osmo Action filters. They have also for the Osmo Pocket. They've actually been around the game for a while now, and I really was drawn to Freewell back in the day because they were one of the first ones that would do an ND1000 or an ND2000 filters for the drones. So if you guys don't know, I love doing long exposure photos with drones, and I'll make sure I have a full playlist above as well as down below. So make sure you guys check those out if you're into ND filters and understanding how to do long exposure photos with them. And now they're getting into pretty much the standard camera game, mirrorless and DSLR cameras. So this is their first product that they came out with. It looks pretty cool. Now we definitely want to test these out and try them out. So this video I just want to go through what they just recently sent to me, which is this new magnetic quick swap system, as well as a circular polarizer filter, and this will be used for my camera here, and of course there's going to be a bunch of different sizes that you'll be able to use. Right now I'm using the A6400 with the Sigma, and this has a 67mm filter thread, so they sent me a couple of filters to test out for this camera. And if you guys are new here, my name is Stasio. I do a lot of drone tech tips, tutorials, and product reviews on this channel. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you guys give it a like. Also, don't forget to subscribe and also hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos. Now, the last time I saw something that's similar to this was when I did a review on PolarPro's filter for the Osmo Action, where they had the magnetic one. So when I first saw these, I quickly was reminded about the one I did for the Osmo Action, which is a really great concept. But this is the first one I've seen now for mirrorless or DSLR cameras. So let's get these out of the box to show you exactly what it does and how it works and what you're able to do with it. And hooking it up to what I have here is my Sony with a Sigma lens and a 67mm filter thread on it. So let's get these out of the box just to show you exactly what this magnetic system is all about. First one to open up is what they're calling the hybrid ND filter plus PL or polarizer filter. For this one, this is a 67mm. So let's open this up. We have a box, and inside the box is a little smaller envelope. Has a bunch of stuff on here just about some of the basics. And if you want to learn more, there's a little code here on the back to scan to learn more. Lifetime warranty card. And always nice that they include a wipe, so lens wipe, filter guide, installation instructions, different types of strengths and filters that they offer, and what each one of them does in this little guide. Now the filter itself, pull it out of the case, and comes in a nice plastic case, which has a little magnetic close to it. So it says 67mm up top, and at the bottom here it actually has my flight path name. So thank you, Freewell. That is a nice little touch that you guys did for me on these filter sets. So thank you very much. This is a magnetic lens cover. So instead of using, the traditional lens cover that you would to clip onto your filter, because of the fact that this is a whole new magnetic system, this is a magnetic cover that will go on the front. So let's test that out as well. Now, of course, before you put the filter on for the first time, you want to make sure that both elements are clean. Now I noticed there's actually two pieces, but when you put it on for the first time, you actually want to put it on together just like this. So make sure both elements and both sides are clean of any debris. Once it's tightened on there, you can actually pull this off. Oh yeah. It actually has a glass here on the front element to protect the lens itself. And then if you want to use the filters, all you do is magnetically just pop them on just like that. So no more having to thread on each filter every time. Now you have your lens cover, which is also magnetic. So once you're done shooting, you can take your shots, and then instead of using this one like this, you just take out the magnetic one, place it right on top, and there you go. So if you already had 67, you invested a lot of money in filter sets from other companies, and you wanted to still be able to use those, you can still use them on here because there's threads on the actual adapter and the filters. So if you wanted to put them on and screw them on top, you are able to do that. So it's not like you have to throw away all your old filters. You can still adapt them to this magnetic system here. Of course, it's not going to be magnetic, but there's threads on the inside that allow you to then use your older filters on this system. Now, if you want to get a little bit more natural motion in your video, you want to use that 180-degree angle rule, where you want to double your frame rate. So if I'm shooting here, I'm normally shooting at probably 4K at 30 frames a second, which means I'm going to want my shutter speed at 1/60th. And if you shoot at 24, you're going to want your shutter speed at 1/50th of a second. And in order for you to do that, as well as maintain some depth of field, you're gonna need something like really dark ND filters if you're shooting in bright daylight. Here I have the 64. There's a bunch of other strengths that are available that you'll want to check out to see, so you're able to dial it in a lot more accurately. I only have the 64 to test out, so I'm gonna wait till it is really bright outside, and I'll show you the differences between using an ND filter and the depth of field you're able to get and the aperture you're able to get versus not using one, and see how much of a difference there is between the two. All right, so for this video, I'm actually using ISO 100. Right now, I'm just walking and doing a basic vlog style test with it. But the problem is I'm at now 1/125th of a second at f/16. Now, f/16 is gonna make everything in my video in focus. So if I just stop right here, as you can see here, everything in the background's in focus. I'm somewhat properly exposed at 1/25th of a second. But if you want to go for that more of an isolation look and you want to blur out the background, you're going to have to bring that f-stop down to something significantly different than f/16, something maybe even like an f3.5, 2.8, and of course 1.4 would be, really shallow depth of field. Now, one thing I can do is, of course, I can increase my shutter speed. So if I do that here, I can bring this all the way up to 1/1600th of a second, and then when I do that, I'm also able to then change my aperture down. I can go down to 2.5 and then increase my shutter speed to 1/4000th of a second. Now, this is pretty much what normally people would do. Even if it's in auto, this is what would happen with your camera. If you shot in auto mode, it would just adjust all these settings that you wouldn't really even notice it, but it would make everything super fast like this. So I'm at shooting at 1/4000th of a second, f2.5, which gives me that nice separation, gives me that nice blurry background. But the thing with a fast shutter speed is that everything kind of feels jittery. So if I wave my hand just like this, and what I'll do is I'll put it side by side with the other way of doing it. So this is 1/4000th of a second at f2.5. Let me just wave my hand here. As you can see that. Now I'm going to switch it back. I'm going to go back to, this is with no filter on, so I'm going to go back and shoot it at 1/25th of a second, which is the lowest I can go to get it properly exposed. And I'm going to bring this all the way back up to f/16. So everything's in focus now. Everything's in focus again. I'm at 1/25th of a second, which means my shutter speed's a lot slower. Now let me do the hand movement again. And I'll put these side by side just so you can see the difference in the jitter in the fast shutter versus a slower shutter. And this is also ISO 100. So this is at 1/125th of a second, f/16. Everything's in focus though. Not much isolation as far as the subject goes. Now what I want to do is put on the ND filter, because I want to be able to ideally shoot at twice my frame rate. So I'm shooting at 30 frames a second right now. I want to be able to shoot at 1/60th of a second. Now if I do that right here, if I change that to 1/60th of a second right now, as you will see, it is completely blown out. And I'm at f/16, which means I don't really have any depth of field. I don't shallow depth of field. I don't have really isolation with my subject. And the only way for me to now bring that down and expose it properly is if I introduce ND filters. All right, so I just dropped the ND64 on there, and you probably can't see me right now. I'm at 1/60th of a second, which is where I want to be at. But now, because of the fact I put the ND filter on there, and as I adjust it, I am now able to properly expose myself a lot better. And as you can see now, I'm at 1/60th of a second. I am at f3.5, f3.2. So now I'm properly exposed, and I'm able to get separation and isolation of my subject matter, which is me. So this is the reason why you would use ND filters. Not only that, but if I were to do the motion test, so if I were to slow my shutter speed down to 1/60th, and I did this right here, you should be able to see some natural movement, some natural blur in the video. So what I'll do is I'll of course put all these side by side to one another, so you're able to see the difference at shooting at 1/4000th of a second compared to shooting at 1/125th of a second, as well as 1/160th of a second. And for most people don't really care or even notice it, but as you start just looking at some of the differences on how the footage looks, you definitely want to take some of these into consideration of using an ND filter to properly expose if you're trying to get that natural motion blur in your video. Now there's definitely a lot of ways you can use ND filters for video as well as photos. I do a lot of long exposure photography. So for me, I like to use a lot of filters as well in my photography to slow down, waterscapes and things like that, to get a lot of motion in the video or in the photo. So there's definitely a lot of uses for ND filters, but in general, this is one of the most common ones, and that's really to slow your shutter speed down to 2 times your frame rate. So if you're shooting at 24 frames a second, you ideally want to be at 1/50th of a second shutter speed. I'm shooting at 30 frames a second, so ideally I want to be at 1/60th of a second. And in order for me to achieve 1/60th of a second, as well as keeping some depth of field or some shallow depth of field in my video, I'm going to need to use something like ND filters. And a couple of things to note is that when I was using the magnetic cover, a couple times it would pop off. That's just because you're not really thinking about it too much. There's a little ridge around the magnetic cover itself, so that if you're not careful, it could catch on one of your dividers here, as I'm showing you. So that was one thing that I did notice. So what I did is I put the sunshade back onto the lens, but when you do that, you don't really have access now to pull off that magnetic cover or the ND filter. So these are just some things that you'll have to make some adjustments around if you want to go with a system like this. And it's just something you have to kind of learn and live with and figure it out as you go. But definitely wanted to note that there's a couple things that I ran into while using these filters. So I was actually gonna post this video a little bit earlier, but I was messaging Freewell Gear and they want to be able to provide one of my viewers a little gift. They're gonna be giving away one of these filter sets to one of you guys. Well, not this one, but one to you guys. And to enter, it's pretty easy, as my giveaways normally are. You of course have to like the video, and in the video description down below, make sure you guys type in what camera system you're using, what lens are you using, and of course what's the thread size that you're gonna need if you do win this filter set. So make sure you guys leave that information down below, like the video, comment what camera you use, what lens you use, as well as what filter size you might need for that lens. And good luck. I'll be picking a winner probably within the next week or so. And also don't forget to share this video with anyone you know that might be interested in needing a ND filter. And there it is, guys. That's a new magnetic quick swap system from Freewell Gear. Thanks Freewell for sending me these to test out. Really cool concept and idea to be used. And a lot of people now are finally coming out with a bunch of new products for just old accessories. I mean, the filter game's been around forever, yet no one's coming out with new stuff. There's another new one from like Altered, I think it's called, where you can flip down the ND filter. Of course, PolarPro came out with another variable ND filter that, like I said, they're just kind of changing the game of a lot of these old accessories that have been out forever. Nice to see all these companies trying to reinvent how we use them. User experience is starting to get a lot better, which is something I'm excited about. So really cool just to see a lot of these companies pushing the envelope on trying to innovate on older accessories that have really been around for a while that people just aren't doing. So thanks Freewell for sending me these. Of course, if you guys got any value from the video, don't forget to hit that like button. And always don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos. This is Aljon Stasio with FlightPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.